Hello, I'm Sarah Bradbury from The Upcoming, and welcome to another episode in our podcast interview series. Today, I'm going to be joined by Myles and Katherine Kelly, who star in The Crow Girl, a dark and gripping new Paramount Plus thriller based on Erik Axl Sund's best-selling novel. In the series, Eve plays DCI Jeanette Kilburn, and Katherine portrays an eminent psychotherapist, Dr. Sophia Craven, and the two women join forces to hunt down a killer targeting young men. Their investigation pulls them into a dangerous web of historic abuse and murder, testing their resolve as they confront the darkest corners of the human psyche. We'll be discussing what drew them to these intense roles, the challenges of bringing such a harrowing story to life, and what audiences can expect from the show. Let's hear what Eve and Katherine had to say. Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. A real pleasure to speak to you both today. How are you doing?
Hi, Sarah. Very well. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Maybe you can kick off with a brief introduction to The Crow Girl for people who don't know anything about the series. What can they expect?
Well, they can expect a twisty, turny, dark, complex thriller with some amazing characters, an amazing cast, brutal story.
And Stan, it's Millie Thomas's first big writing gig after she's been working as an actress. What appealed to you about the adaptation of Erik Axl Sund's novel, and what really stood out to you about the script?
Well, I'm amazed it's Millie's first. I mean, it feels so accomplished, doesn't it, Eve? I mean, I didn't know that until ages into filming, because it just feels like you're in such masterful hands. You know, she was obviously just born to do this. She's brilliant. And it's no secret that the rights to this book, because it's such a bestseller, it's such a popular book, they've been with other TV companies, and it was sort of written off as unwritable. You know, they decided it was unmakeable as a TV show because of many reasons. But you know, the nature of it being right there at there's a number one reason. And yet, you know, I didn't read the book until after I'd been sent the scripts, and she's just done the most remarkable job with it, because the book is a grueling read. I think I found it a really, really upsetting, helpful for the character, immensely helpful. She's done the most remarkable job with it, which is kind of indescribable. You have to read both to see what she's developed from it, but she's really she's sort of done that brilliant thing where she's not really lost anything either. I'm not really sure, because I'm not a writer at all, so it's far hard for me to articulate quite how she's done it, but I feel like she hasn't lost any of the essential ingredients of the book at all. But she's just completely mixed it in a different way. And, you know, some of the flavors are just a sprinkling, you know, a tiny, tiny hint. And some of you know, and what she's brilliantly done is, you know, Jeanette, you are in safe hands with Jeanette. She is the shining light of the TV show. And actually, there's my tale about how I came to do it, because I'd actually only read the first episode when I rang my agent and said, who's playing Jeanette? Because having not read the book, I just knew that we needed a masterful actress to play that part, because it could only be as good as she is. You know, it didn't matter that it was a best-selling book. It didn't matter that it had all the ingredients. That needed to be in the hands of somebody who can do it all. And so I'd never worked with Eve, but I'd seen her work. And as soon as he told me it was her, I was like, yeah, I'll do it. Because she has all that in her repertoire and more. And that's what it needs, because I think that's what the book doesn't have. It doesn't have Jeanette in the same way. Is that right, Eve? I mean, I remember the book very well, very much for Sophia, you know, because I was reading it from a very biased point of view at that point. But
yeah, absolutely, tonally completely different, I think. Yeah. Very useful, as you said, incredibly useful. The world, everything. I think for Jeanette, we used what we needed. But then we had to make her kind of the eyes of the audience for the screen. And we have to put that into a different kind of area.
It was going to be my next question, actually. You know, coming to your specific characters, what was your approach to playing DCI Jeanette? Was it all there in the script, going back to the novel? Did you feel that you needed to do any kind of research to understand what someone might be like doing that job, how they would be, and find the interior of that character too?
Whatever your process is your process. Mine is I throw out a wide net, and then I start to reel it in, and I use whatever I need to use. Because basically what I'm trying to do is find a key. I need a key to unlock this character and how I'm going to play her from the word go. And I need to be able to make choices pretty quickly, because we're on a bit of a time restraint. always on a time restraint in telly. You've got to make decisions and stick to them. But to make decisions, you need to try and, well, for me anyway, my process is to get as many tools as I possibly can. So I would watch hours and hours and hours of 24-hour in custody, and just to see how those dynamics worked between, the interviewer and the interviewee, and the partners, and the lawyers, and the whole process of that, which was immensely helpful to me in this. And then I have two very, very good friends who are very, very high up in the police, detectives, which I've spent a lot of time with, discussing things with them. We also had a gentleman on set with us most days, who was ex-police, South Wales Police, so that he made sure that all the procedural stuff was completely overseen and was done correctly into the book. Fantastic and fascinating hours spent with him, telling us stories of things that had happened and situations that he'd found himself in and how it related to what we were doing. So we felt really in safe hands in that form. But with Jeanette, as I say, it is a procedural drama, but it's a domestic drama as well. It's a drama about people and about relationships and about situations and about love and loss and fear, expectations, needs, failures, flaws, all these things are in this drama. They're all celebrated, and we've leaned into them sideways. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make Jeanette and Sophia, we're trying to make the story, we're trying to make this drama rich and as complex and as thrilling as we possibly can. So you do whatever you can to make that possible. Jeanette isn't just a DCI. She's also a mother. She's also a wife. She's also a daughter. She's also a lover. She's also a friend. She's also, a partner, a boss. So there's all these different beautiful layers that make this one person, this one character, this one walking, talking being, And then what's really interesting about her, and what you have to play, what I had to play into more than what you see and what's obvious, is the things that you have to that she sacrifices. And as soon as the things that you see that she has to sacrifice, then again we connect with her even more. We understand even more about her and her journey through this series. So a lot goes into it, and you use whatever you need to in the end. But what we do as actors, and what in this drama in particular, is mine these scenes as deep as you possibly can. Get everything out of them. Where there's no humour, find the humour. Where there's no darkness, find the darkness. Where there's no, where there's no complexity, find where it's complex. And hopefully that will kind of produce something quite special.
Katherine, for you, does that chime with you in your process and how you approach Sophia? I guess she's kind of coming from that different perspective, being the psychotherapist, whereas she's actually trying to understand the psyche of someone who might be capable of these things. So was that quite an interesting thing, but maybe also quite challenging to get your head into?
Well, we didn't realise it until this morning, but even I work in exactly the same way, actually. And that's a lot of the joy of it for me. And, that side of things, the research, the homework, just the thinking time. You're walking down the street and you're thinking about it. You've got a script in your bag. You probably won't even get it out that day, but it's in your bag and it's on your mind. And everybody you see, and everything sort of feeds through the prism of that once it's on your radar and you're doing it. And sometimes when jobs happen last minute, I feel really cheated of that, because I find that to be the most enjoyable, the gathering of this toolbox. I find one of the most enjoyable parts of the job. And then that's not for everybody. And look, I know some astonishing actors who don't do any of that. They literally just learn their lines, David Mamet style, true or false, and just fucking say it, right? Hit your mark and say it, and they're phenomenal, right? So we certainly have no judgment on that. It's just, this is where our process, and also, a bit of a kick as well, right? So very fortunately, similar, she's a friend of a friend, actually, who's a psychiatrist, or she's a child psychiatrist, actually, and she So, I was very fortunate to be able to speak to her, because it's also quite, I mean, we're really lucky these days with the internet, obviously, and what's available to us, and YouTube is, and all that, which for the first 10 years of my career, our careers, we didn't have that, because I was in the library, you had to go to the library, right? So there's all that at our disposal, but it is often hard to sort of meet the real thing, and that's always brilliant. But what was strange about this is that I actually had to park a lot of that, because if I let the audience in too much on that, then I ruin the plot. So it was this balance, which again is even hard for me to talk about it now with you, so without spoiling things, but the plot is king, and especially for Sophia, and I have to be really careful to protect that. And sometimes I felt like I was serving that and not necessarily completely serving the character, but therefore that's the whole point, right? So that was a really different approach for me, because I've definitely been in more character-based dramas than strong plot-driven dramas in my life. So that was a tiny little, very enjoyable, but it was an adjustment. But what I would say is that what I think is really unique about this is that I do think that it holds the plot and these really dense, rich, exciting, original characters in equal measures in this. And that's rare, because usually one thing trumps the other, and maybe not all the time. It's ebbs and flows. But I think that this, certainly in the script, it holds both things at all times together. And that is unusual and really exciting, which is what made me, I just never thought that this was one of Millie's first outings, because that's a really hard thing to do.
Thank you so much for sharing all that with me. And I can't wait for everyone else to see Crow Girl. Thanks so much.